In this video, you are going to learn how to graph an equation written in slope-intercept form. The equation is y equals to mx plus b, where b represents the y-intercept and m represents the slope. So all you're going to be doing is, given an equation written in this form, you are going to draw a graph to represent that equation. Looking at our example to the right, it says graph the equation y equals to 2x plus 4. We are going to use these simple steps on the left to graph this equation. Step 1 says identify. The first thing you need to do in order to graph the equation is to identify and plot the y-intercept b. So in this equation, which one of these values represent b? B is always the constant, the number by itself. So B here is positive 4. We identify what is our y-intercept. We are going to plot positive 4 on our y-axis. So that coordinate is found right here. This is a point, positive 4. Once we identify and plot our y-intercept, we move on to the second step. It says identify the slope m. This represents how steep the line is and is the coefficient of the x term in the equation. So our m is positive 2. 2 is the coefficient of x. Now that we have identified our slope, we are going to move on to step 3. However, if your slope is an integer, whether negative or positive, right, you need to put it over 1, turn it into a fraction by putting it over 1, or using 1 as a denominator. Why? Because you need to know how many times you rise and how many times you run. The numerator represents your rise, and the denominator represents your run. So if it's not a fraction, if it's an integer, you need to turn it into a fraction by putting it over the number over 1. Looking at step 3, it says use the slope to find another point. So we are going to use the slope here, m, to find another point on the graph. So if the slope is positive, right, you are going to rise on the y-axis according to the numerator of the slope. Then move right on the x-axis according to the denominator. So looking at the slope, as you see that our numerator is positive and also our denominator is positive, mean that we are going to rise on our x, on our y, we're going to rise on our y-axis, and we are going to run to the right of our x, which is run horizontally on our x. Now, let's say that our slope is negative. If the slope is negative, that means we are going to move down on the y-axis according to the numerator of the slope. Let us do step 3. So now that we know that our slope is positive, here we are going to rise. So remember now the first step is to identify your y-intercept and plot it. So we are going to rise based on our numerator. We are going to rise 2 units from our y-intercept. So we're going to go up 1, 2. Then based on our denominator, we are going to run 1 to the right. All right, because that is positive. The 1 is positive. So this is my first point. However, all you need is 2 points, but if you are not satisfied, you can also plot a third point. So again, from your second point here, you are going to rise 2, 1, 2, and then you are going to run 1 on your x. So this is my third point. Remember to pay attention to your scale. If you notice the scale here, this is my origin. From 0 to here is 1. From here to here is 3. That means I'm going up by 1 unit. So that is the reason why I count it as 1, 2. All right, so you pay attention to your scale. So these are my 3 points. Once I plot my points, remember it says 2, but if you're not comfortable, you need additional points, you can just do another point. So once I plot all my points, I'm going to connect those points by drawing a straight line through the points I have plotted. So I'm going to draw a straight line. I'm using my freehand. I don't have a ruler because I'm using the mouse. So I'm going to draw a straight line connecting all those 3 points. This is a graph for the equation. So I'm going to label this line. This is the line for the equation. I'm going to label this line y equals to 2x plus 4. And remember, once your slope is positive, it means that your line is going to be trending up. So again, in order for you to graph this equation, graph an equation in slope-intercept form, you need 2 things. You need your slope and you need your y-intercept. We are going to look at another equation when the slope is negative. So again, it says graph the equation y equals to negative 4x plus 3. First thing to do is to identify and plot your y-intercept. So my y-intercept again is my constant, which is b. So I need to find positive 3 on my y-axis, which is right here. So remember, the y-intercept is found on the y-axis. All right, so this is positive 3. Once I identify my y-intercept, identify and plot, I'm going to identify my slope. My slope here is m, which is negative 4. Means that my line is going to be trending down because my slope is negative. Again, once you are given an integer, you need to put that number over 1 to turn it into a fraction. If you are given an equation where the slope is already a fraction, there's nothing else you need to do because already you know your rise and you know your run. All right, so once it is not a fraction, you need to put it over 1 so you can have a denominator, a run. All right, now that I put this over 1, I am going to go down on my y-axis, the reason being because my numerator is negative. So on my y-axis, I'm going to go down 4 units. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's right here. If I go down 4, my 1 is positive, meaning that I'm going to run 1 to the right. All right. Also, I can go down another 4 to get an additional point. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I run 1 to my right. So if I need another point again, I can go down 4 units. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I go 1 unit to my right. All right, so right there I have 4 points. But you don't need 4 points. You need like 2. So once I plot all my points, I'm going to connect all my points using a straight line. As I said, I'm using my freehand. So it's not going to be straight as if you are using a ruler. So I draw a straight line to connect my points. Because remember, the graph is not complete until you draw a straight line to those points. All right, so I put my arrow at the end, and that is my line. So this line is y equals to negative 4x plus 3. All right, again, this is how you graph an equation in slope-intercept form.